Okay, so I just wanted to thank you again. Welcome for joining. Tonight we have Amsa and Malvin, who is joining us tonight. They are the co-curators of the Black Visual Arts exhibition here in London. So welcome, Malvin and Amsa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe let's get started. I'll get you both, guy and lady, to introduce yourselves. Maybe talk about if you have any, what your arts background is, if you have any, and also sort of any personal endeavors that you have in the community at this moment or in the past even. And I'll get Amsa to start. Ladies first.
Actually, where do I start from? All right. First of all, I'm a self-taught artist. I didn't go to like school to be able to do all of this and everything. And well, it's mainly because my family is an artistic family, not just my nuclear family, but also my extended family as well. My grandparents, mostly my grandmother, my cousins, my sisters, my mom, and we have the family joke that it skips my dad, like he's the only one that probably has not made anything. But to be honest, I think there is something hiding underneath him somewhere that I'm sure if he lets it out, he would probably finally be part of the family, But apart from that, I studied broadcast journalism in Fanshawe. I got a postgraduate diploma in broadcast journalism in Fanshawe. And I worked as a journalist for a short while, maybe a few years. Worked as a journalist, saw that I wasn't really in it per se, because it just felt like I didn't want to be in front of the camera and all of that. I preferred doing things behind the camera, like doing the production work, doing some of the research, editing, the videoing, those types of things. I really enjoyed all of that. But after I officially moved to London after my wedding, sitting at home looking for a job, just kind of hanging around, I kept up with my jewelry making hobby, which I was now able to start actually selling some of my jewelry. And then it kind of progressed from there to what we have now. So that's kind of a very short, tiny, compacted story of mine. Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'm originally from Toronto. I attended Etobicoke School of the Arts, which is a school of the performing arts, and I was a visual arts major and a dance minor. Yeah, I've always had a love and an interest in terms of the arts. I didn't pursue it after graduation. I went to university, and I think I went there originally to do business admin and political science, and then I discovered I took a course in international development and indigenous studies, and I was hooked. And then I worked. I was overseas for around 12 years in East Africa and West Africa, doing projects and programs, water and sanitation, HIV and AIDS, but always having a sketchbook with me. Two things I always take with me when I go to a new country is a good pair of sneakers, because I run. I'm a bit of a fair weather runner, so I don't run in the cold, and my sketchbook, and my camera. So, so, and then I just, I think I let's see, what else do I do? I think I do, for me, I'm always doing something. I'm always busy. I'm always engaged. I think I have one of those, I'm one of those people. I have to be doing something.
Mm-hmm.
My family and I, after coming back from overseas, we were we were in Nunavut for around 5 years, and I loved being there. From in terms of, I was working with the Department of Health, but I was always developing art programs with community members. So getting literally, I was working in health, but I was taking money from economic development and from culture and heritage to do health programs, but they were centered around the arts. All right, and then we came to London, and I think it's been, for me, I tend to see things. If I see a gap, I want to fill it.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of times I don't really have the patience to wait for conversations to happen and negotiation and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of people, for me, I have an international development background. So it's like when you're doing work with like malnutrition, water and sanitation, and like you need to get shit done, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my approach. And even today, Amsa, I was in an evaluation process with a consultant for some work that we were doing. And it was interesting because we spoke about how like it's about, you see there's a gap, there's a need, you come up with the idea, you put it together, the process, you fill it, right? And oftentimes I find I like to drop seeds or plant seeds with the members of my team, and hope that they'll pick it up and run with it, because that's typically what happens in my background. So but yeah, so I've always been an artist at heart. I still have tons of my photographs kicking around the house. I still have my sketchbooks from high school. There's some pretty awesome pieces in there, and I'm always working through ideas, and every once in a while when I'm deep into something in terms of if it's clinical or if it's program related, sometimes I just step away and say, you know what, I'm not using the left side of my brain. Like I need to do something else, and that's always when I want to create. I used to I wouldn't say former. I still consider myself a house music DJ, because I still have shelves and shelves and shelves, an obscene amount of records in my basement. Yeah, so I've done anything creative. We used to do nights in Toronto. One called for the Love, one called Candy, and it was like house music and visuals and drummers and trumpet players and saxophonists, and we play instrumental house tracks and have like like singers come in and just freestyle over them. And yeah, it was it's just, for me, if it's as creative as possible, right? So we'd have a band come in, and then like the band would play, and it would just be a transition once together. So I think it's all about creativity. So for me.
Amazing. I guess my first question is, how did your paths kind of cross? And then what made you both, have the idea to co-curate this exhibition?
I got a text message. Someone sent me a chat message saying, "Oh, there's actually a family here, and the wife is a Yaro." And I was like, "Okay, but I'm a Yaro, and I don't know any other Yaro in London." And she was like, "Oh, but they also make this Nigerian food, Northern Nigerian food, masa." And I was freaking out because I haven't eaten that ever since I moved here. And that was actually the reason as to why we met. I was hungry. And that was it, really. We were able to meet, found out that that Miriam, Malvin's wife, actually comes from Gombe State, my state as well. So we are most likely cousins, like long distance cousins. And also for me, once I heard that, I was like, okay, that's it. I have family here, and that's it. No matter what you guys do, I know you guys will try to chase me away, but no, I will keep coming back. And that was it. Yeah, that was actually how we met. And when was that? Was it 2019?
Yeah, because we've been in London, I think when did we move here? I think we've been here 4 years, 5 years. So yeah, we haven't been here that long, and you know, I think like for example, there's not, I'm not a Nigerian, so and there's not a lot of people from Nigeria's north that are here. You mostly find a lot of people from the south or other parts of the country. So you know, I think my wife was amazed, right? So because she's always longing for someone to like who like knows the food and knows the language and understands the culture. So it was an absolute godsend for us to bump into Amsa. And she's been you know, our biggest supporter, and she's been our biggest fan ever since we got here. Yeah, no matter what we do, like she's like, I'm there, right? So we could be saying like, hey, we're cutting the grass, and she's like, I'm there, you know. And so she's like she's there to support, and I think that's been amazing. So for us at Yaya's Kitchen that you mentioned, so Amsa is our artist in residence. So she does all of our cards. She does when we're doing our supper clubs. She was doing the centerpieces. She was doing the welcome card and also a thank you card. So all handmade beautiful cards. Yeah. So she was always a part of. She was that artistic piece within our imagined or our curated space.
And then, so did the idea for an exhibition come naturally out of this collaboration that you both share then?
Yeah, because the space was there. You know, I mean, it was just sitting empty. And I always tell people I'm from Toronto, so I walk around with a set of Toronto eyes, and I see spaces like in London, and I'm like, no, like that's wrong, or that needs to be something else. I see a garage that's supposed to be like a cool restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, and then I saw this space, and I remember we had spoken about it, or sort of as a joked around, oh, we should do something. And then I think we just said, yeah, let's get it done, and we asked them, and they're like, okay, yeah, you guys go for it. So we did. And I think they didn't know what to expect, and then before they know it, we were there putting up art.
Yeah, you just took it over. And I remember seeing the call for artists, you know, the post kind of floating around. Did you both find that it was hard to reach Black artists in London and in the surrounding area, or was it quite easy and there was a demand and people wanted to be seen and wanted that platform?
Well, personally, I would say it was kind of both. Yeah, it was kind of both because there were many people that were like, oh, okay, this is something that I can send in my things, or I can showcase myself. But then also at the same time, many were like, no, I'm not ready yet. You know, so it was a balance of both. I do know that Malvin, for example, had to go through a lot of talking with so many people, trying to get them, like convince them to be a part and all of that. And I also got lots of emails, like people asking to be a part of it, but then maybe something happened and then they couldn't be a part of it. There was an issue some way, somehow, and everything. So it was a good balance of both, you know. So yeah, and with any kind of event or anything that you're organizing, I have learned the lesson to expect anything and everything, basically, from trying to organize all of this. So yeah, it was both for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Marie, let me pull the curtain back for you. Kind of like in the Wizard of Oz. Sometimes our community wants to see first, right? And it's often show me, right? Sometimes there's a lot of show me first, right? And let's see it happen. That maybe people have tried it before and it didn't work, or people have spoken about it and it didn't manifest, right? So I think there's a lot of hesitancy in that kind of thing, and I think in many ways there's a lot of doubt, right? And two things you don't want to, I think, from you don't want to sleep on sometimes when you sit down to do something. Sometimes you don't want to sleep on what some people are trying to do, and you don't want to doubt either, right? So, and I think there's a lot of conversations happening like in the background around, like you can do it. Your work is good. Your work is ready. You're ready, or it doesn't have to be finished. Right? You should just put it out there as an unfinished piece. And there's even conversations with the sponsor in terms of London Arts Council in terms of defining what is a professional artist.
Right.
Because I think a lot of our back and forth was oftentimes many of us as people of color and members of the Black community, some of us don't have that privilege and an opportunity to actually say, hey, I'm a full-time artist, or this is what I do on a 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we felt that it was an opportunity for artists, because I felt in my heart of hearts that people had like sketchbooks, and they had like paintings that they have started, and there are printmakers and there's photographers, people who had things hidden away. Right? And people who imagine themselves as being artists but never had the opportunity. And I said, and I remember when Amsa and I were talking, I was like, can we carve out a space to allow them to bring these unfinished pieces, and to just put them up on the wall. And part of it being unfinished is part of the story, right, of the artist and their journey and their reality as an artist of color and as a Black artist, pursuing so many different things, but also wanting to be creative and wanting to tell a story through their art. So I think that's all those pieces were. So as I said, there are a lot of conversations we had, sort of like, you can do it, and a lot of hand holding and saying, come on, just like bring it out, like bring it out.
For sure.
Yeah, so we think we got quite a few, but I would dare to say that there's way more than
most definitely
presented. Yeah, so I think once people see it, and I think the next time we do it, I think more people will come.
Perfect. That was beautiful, and also I think that a good segue to my next question. I was reading the sort of the Facebook page for the exhibition, and in the description, it just did say that this is a celebration of Blackness and Black identity, and creativity in white spaces. So my next question really is, what do you think is the role or the relationship of arts and activism, especially in this time today where it's such a, we're in a kind of a heightened awareness of, injustices and the racial sort of topics that everyone's talking about, but not maybe everyone's actioning. So what do you both think is the role of arts in that?
It's a heavy question, but on its own, it is also the kind of question we should be asking as well. It's whether we like it or not, the arts is a platform. The arts is a vehicle that can be used for so many things. We have seen how the arts was used as propaganda also during like during World War II, for example, where the arts that was made by Jewish people were considered bad art, and there was a whole lot of propaganda that went towards that, just to tear down Jews and everything else that came about with them. And for the fact that they survived, for the fact that their arts is still, it's thriving. They are known all over the world, like Jewish artists and all of that. They are known all over the world. It shows that they persevered, and they stood above everything else that came at them. And one of the reasons is because of the arts itself, you know. It showed us what was going on. It showed us what was happening at that point in time. And that's what the arts is. For us now, for example, here today, now, it was because of artists, photographers, musicians, and all of that, that everyone around the world is talking about everything that is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's because of the like, for example, the picture of the girl that was standing still while there was police just surrounding her, and you could see that they were kind of coming to grab this calm person just standing there. It pushed people to say something, you know. It pushed you to have something, to feel something, and to be like, if that was me, what would I have done in that kind of position? Right. I would not want anyone else to be in that kind of position, but I would want to stand up for something that I believe in. Right. And yeah, so it's so right now the arts is always needed. The arts has to reflect what society is talking about or what society is going through. But not only that, the arts on its own is a prediction of what is to come. If an artist cannot see it, you would not build it. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons as to why sci-fi has gone so far, like so many things that are being done, the iPhones that we have, Bluetooth and everything, someone dreamt of it at some point in time, mm-hmm. at the time at which they would not have thought it would have ever happened, you know, at the time at which it would have been seen as magic. But someone saw it and made it into art, and that's why we have them now. Mm-hmm. So that's my the little I can say right now. Yeah.
No, I would agree. I think it's so many ways. I think, you know, the artist, it's heavy. You know what I mean? You know, art is a heavy pursuit. Right? By no way. I don't think there's an artist that will tell you it's like, oh, this is a walk in the park. You know what I mean? Or I do this in my sleep. You know what I mean? No, man, it's heavy. Like, art is heavy, man. I think in so many ways, like the artist is the purveyor of truth, right? In terms of that reflection of that society. They are the keepers of the past and also the creators of the future, right? And I think in so many ways they bridge those three realms of existence simultaneously, right? And I think that in itself is what it's a heavy burden. It's a heavy process, and it's not something that I think anyone enters into lightly, right? By any stretch of the imagination, because I think you understand what is at stake, right? Because oftentimes your work stands on its own. It stands in silence, right? It is there, it is observed, it is gazed upon, right? And it tells a story, and oftentimes without you even being present. Mm-hmm. Right, so it's open to interpretation. Right. It can be misunderstood. It can be misconstrued. You know, so it's a heavy piece, man. It's a heavy thing. But I think it is absolutely necessary, because I think in so many ways, especially within marginalized communities, artists play such an important role. Just in terms of around matters of joy and celebration, and telling our story when oftentimes words have failed, and when greater society, in terms of white society, has disavowed or even disallowed those stories to be told. There's a reason why the drums were beating in Haiti during the time of the revolution, right? There's a reason why songs were always sung by slaves as they worked in the plantations. Like, there's a reason why art is that common thread that runs through all of these things. If you find oppression of a particular people in a place, in a space, you will always find art, right? And the thing is, and sometimes it's not even seen, right? And I think that's the piece. I always remember I took there's a women's studies course that I took in university, and we were talking about resistance. And I remember the example was a there were two slaves in the field picking cotton. The slave master came and gave each slave an apple, and he waited and see what they were going to do. The first woman stood up and ate the apple. The second woman fed the apple to the horse. Right? Was she resisting? Right? And I think oftentimes you will find that for so many of us, especially as marginalized people, that oftentimes within that space of resistance, there's something artistic in terms of what we are. Paris is burning, right? And just in terms of around the art and the art form and the artistry that exists. And as soon as it became mainstream, then people said, okay, we're done. Right? We need to move on to something else. And it was always about remaining on the edge and being subversive and being artistic, and representing community in a beautiful and sometimes even in a very disturbing way at the exact same time, which is in fact, oftentimes that's where beauty comes from. So really pushing, I think artists are always pushing society to be better, and pushing the envelope and pushing themselves, right, and challenging themselves on a daily basis.
Woo, that gave me goosebumps. Thank you. I totally agree with all of that. I think this exhibition is the start of something that can, build and grow into so many different opportunities within London, not just in, the Black community, but also in all sort of racialized communities that want that platform as well. And to come together, really, right? I think that's also a big part of that. You had a soft opening early April, and then we went into lockdown, and then I think there's now an extension into end of June, correct? So hopefully, lockdown is lifted and we can all come to Dundas and see it in the flesh. Is this under the Black London Project, where there'll be other initiatives other than the exhibition, or is there going to be a continuation where you would like this to be sort of an annual thing or like a quarterly thing every year? What's the plans? What's the future for this stuff?
Okay, I would say both. I would say both ways. Like we would want the exhibition itself to grow beyond what it is. Definitely more artists, different themes, maybe a different location. Who knows? Maybe a permanent location at some point in time that it's ours. We're not paying rent for the space. That type of thing. For the exhibition itself, we want it to become bigger than we can manage. Basically, that's the goal. That's the plan. For the Black London project itself, the exhibition is just one of the projects. We would definitely want to have more than just like an exhibition. We want to do all sorts of things, as in grab any kind of opportunity that is out there. For example, like Culture Days, who knows, we would probably throw out something, it's still in the same year, and we can do something that celebrates all of Black culture. And when I say Black culture, it's like anyone Black all over the world. Just show yourself and show your colors in every beautiful way you can, that type of thing. And it could be like I said, any opportunity that comes up, slam poetry, who knows, a wine, a sip and dine, or a competition of sipping and dining and drawing at the same time, who knows, anything and everything. That's we wouldn't want to lock ourselves down to just what is expected. It's just as you said earlier on, when we started speaking, collaboration is the key. And if you're not collaborating with those in your society, then you really lose a lot. there is no way you can keep, well, maybe you can keep learning from the same book, but it's also good to see someone else's perspective as well and learn from them. And there's so much to learn, so why not?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think, Biggie Smalls said it best, bad boys move in silence, right? So for me, I think we're just gonna, do what we do, and as in terms of this the Black London Project, reach out. I think for us, one of the things that we've spoken about is in terms of doing this again. Reaching out to members of the BIPOC community and members of the Indigenous community to say, hey, we need to start doing things in solidarity, and we need to start carving out some of these spaces from an artistic point of view, and we need to start curating some of these things together.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's when the magic happens, man. Like that's the piece. Like that's when things come to fruition. Like, and we think that is the next step. I think as an idea, the Black London Project, I've always found it really interesting, because I think for us, like being fairly new to London and still trying to navigate who's who and what's what, but then still like, again, seeing that need and seeing that gap and say, hey, let's create something. I think people, I think for us, it's not just doing it here. I think we want to open it to within the entire Southwest, and Windsor and Sarnia and Grey Bruce and all points in between, because there's an amazing history that not just only Black people have within this area, but people of color, and I think we need to reclaim that history and those spaces. And the next project, I think we have to engage and reach out to our Indigenous brothers and sisters and say, hey, like we need to do some things together, and let's be disruptive, and let's be respectful, but let us create together, and carve out spaces for each other, and also for ourselves at the same time.
Perfect. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. That's a great end to this interview. But I just wanted to thank you both for joining me tonight, and definitely looking forward to seeing it in the flesh, and hopefully more collaboration in the future. Thank you guys
Awesome.
for your time.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
You too.
Bye.